when you have a histamine reaction, which actually happening at a level below the molecular level, is you're having a problem with the waveform. So what the block does is it uses quantum energy to manipulate the waveforms so that it works more in accord with what your physiology needs.
All right, you guys are good. Did you guys have a hard time jumping on?
Yeah.
Because I think it was just like the updates, and I'm getting messages from people. My community text is just like, we can't get on, and then they got booted off or something. So hopefully we are all on here. I'm so happy to see you guys. Let's see, someone else just said they couldn't join. Okay, so that's probably why the numbers are all over the place. But if we can go a little longer, let's go a little longer. I know, Ian, you have something at, I don't know, do you still have a hard stop at 2?
No, I don't, actually.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I'm okay.
Okay, yay. Okay, amazing. So, or it could just be Mercury retrograde, but we'll go a little longer if your guys is, I've been talking about Mercury and retrograde for a while now, for at least the last week with Ian. So we can go a little bit longer just because I know that people are kind of having a hard time jumping on, staying on, they're getting kicked off. So we can just go a little bit longer if you guys are down for that and just like chat. So, okay, so thank you both for being on. I'm so happy to see you. I really wish that I had been with you guys when you guys are celebrating. But I was telling Philip, we just have to do it. It doesn't have to be a birthday. I mean, wait a second. It's
Great.
your birthday. It's your birthday coming up.
4th of July.
Mm-hmm. So for everyone on, that's another good reason to come to get together because there's a birthday coming up.
Yeah.
And then I have, we have all kinds of like things to celebrate. Everyone's 100% healthy right now, so that feels pretty good. So that's a good thing to celebrate as well. And Philip, you've been traveling for a bit, haven't you?
Yes, I was in Germany for just a little bit over a week. There was actually a German podcast I was on. It was actually also for a Swiss TV channel, and they wanted to know more about our technology. Yes. So I went there and then also took the time to visit friends and family for a few days.
So good. That's amazing. People have been so kind, just excited to see you guys on. Someone's saying that they just gave a Leela necklace. That's what I'm wearing. Can't stop talking about it. And of course I have my travel. I'm up in the mountains in Utah at Sundance somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, this goes with me everywhere. And if you guys haven't read my blog yet, I just talked about in my blog that literally I bring my matcha, which I knows. I bring my Leela Quantum travel blog. I mean, I bring a lot because my suitcases are heavy, but this goes with me in my carry-on. So this is like, if anything happens to my luggage, this is like one of the items that goes into my carry-on. So it's with me literally all the time. Someone else is saying wearing mine too. Yay. And someone else is saying I'm excited to try. So, okay. So I've been babbling because I know that we're trying to like get people to come on and people are getting bounced off. But let's just start chatting. Since we have over an hour, we can just stay on until we kind of wrap. I have a hard stop at 2, but whatever. I'll just go a little long. And let's talk about cell renewal. Let's talk about what some people they just don't really get. They don't really get the science behind what just seems like magic. They don't get like looking at this in a bigger version and the infinity version. And as I'm wearing this and I talk about it and I have my little cards everywhere, they're sort of like, I don't get what's in here that makes these things happen to your cells. Like, what is here that helps make our cells healthy, that helps renew our cells, helps balance us? So that's what we're going to talk about today, you guys. We have 2 geniuses on the planet that can explain that, and I'm just here to facilitate and soak it up.
So can I share it was somebody hit me up on Instagram a couple of days ago, and I think, Philip, I showed this to you over the weekend. It was great. I know I showed it to another friend of ours, Todd. What it said was, the text said, "Can you explain to me the process for manufacturing these?" And I said, "No, sorry, it's proprietary." And they said, "Well, so it negates EMFs." And I said, "Yeah, you can look at the blood work and see that it negates EMFs." And he goes, "So it's creating EMFs?" And I said, "No, it's not creating EMFs. And there's no EM coming off of it." He goes, "Okay, so," and I think a scientist, and he says, "So understanding this, you're saying that it's not creating waves with which we're familiar at a frequency with which we have technology to measure it, but it's having all of these outsized effects, and you won't tell me how it's made." And I said, "Yes, exactly."
Right. That's usually the starting point, because people ask me, how does it work? And I'm like, well, it's proprietary in terms of how they do it, but we can explain to you what it does and how it works. So let's start from like basic, okay? Let's pretend we're talking to Mama Poon. And I've got to explain to her why she needs to have one of these, a bigger one, because I'm putting one in her house, and she's now wearing the bracelet, and I've gotten her a necklace, and I'm charging things in her house and telling her she's got to drink water out of these specially charged things. So let's pretend we're explaining to Mama Poon, like, what is this? What is it made out of? Is it just metal? What's in between? What's it doing? And let's give her some scientific evidence of why that works.
So I can maybe start with something, and then I know that Ian will fill in all the blanks that Mama Poon will have. So
yes.
It's pure quantum energy in this little block that you have there in the back. And it's in a very concentrated form. So quantum energy is behind the matter. I think that's a concept that everybody can still follow and understand.
Well, maybe not. Let's just revisit what quantum energy is real quick. Because people are jumping up and down, and I don't know what you guys see. I see like 1,200 people, but then it drops. So I don't know what the number is here, but usually we have a couple thousand. So let's pretend that half the people there don't even know what quantum energy is. And so if you say in front, behind, what does that mean?
So matter is what we see with our eyes and what we can touch. I could use this and it's matter, right? But in the same with our bodies, right? So I touch this here, and then we may just have this concept of, okay, well, this is just all matter. But what is actually matter? First of all, we're over 90% water, right? So and that's the first thing that we're not really conscious about usually and aware of. But it's the case that there's just tons of water. But then what is water? This over 99% is space, empty space. And that's really behind the matter. And behind the matter is the so-called quantum energy. And within every cell, we have a quantum energy field. That is also how our cells communicate instantly and constantly. And within no time, there's no lack of time when the cells communicate. It's not, when I say something, there's a little bit later you hear that, but the cells really communicate instantly because they're connected through this quantum energy field. And we've been able to harness and concentrate this pure quantum energy in a very concentrated fashion. Some people may call it consciousness also, but that may lead too far. I think we can stick with quantum energy for now. That's maybe a little bit easier to understand. And we'll bring in some consciousness examples later on, probably.
Yeah.
So that is also why it's so harmonious with the cells. Now, we need this energy to exist. Literally, we could not live without it. It would be impossible. You could have all the water and all the food in the world, but without the quantum energy, you wouldn't be able to exist. Now, if you're in a desert and you don't have water, you're drying out and you think you're going to die, and you will need a lot of water to recharge. Same here. You can use this as the quantum energy battery, basically, to recharge, to give your cells an additional source of this energy in order to pull that in and do things with it, because a lot of things in our daily lives suck out quantum energy out of objects, like EMF, frankly. But our bodies are also kind of constrained because we're constantly in this EMF soup. We have food that's not necessarily great for us. We have water that may be contaminated, and even air. And then there's a lot of other stress, right? We run from meeting to meeting. We're constantly on our phones. That's also stress. And that also kind of tends to put an imbalance on our energy system. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what I can say. And I know Ian will now do the cream for everyone here and go a little deeper.
Yeah. There's so many questions, and there are questions before. Like someone came through on my text and said EMF suit. Like, are we wearing
EMF soup?
Oh, suit. Okay. And I was like, I'll ask.
Fine enough tailoring. So one of the things that makes this a little easier to understand. So if I needed a Poon, I would say that 1,000 years ago, people understood that you had to have food and you had to have water, right? So in terms of what makes your physiology actually function, right? So you're a human body and you're a vibrating set of energy, effectively. At its most fundamental level, physicists, we would identify and say, okay, you're a coalescing of all of these different vibratory pieces that hold into one specific pattern. So we're aware physiologically that we need food and water. Now, 1,000 years ago, if you'd said you need food and water, everybody'd go, well, of course. And they'd go, you can survive for 30 days without food, maybe a week and a half without water, a couple minutes without air. But now we know that if you negate adenosine triphosphate, ATP, in your cells, you're gone in just a few seconds, right? So there are finer and finer gradations the smaller and lower you get. And so if you move beyond where we are, say with ATP, if you said you're without electrons, well, you'd be gone in under a second, right? The flash of light, effectively, at the speed of light, you would just cease to be. So that's not the final stratum. It's just going layer by layer by layer by layer, and it becomes more and more subtle and refined. Now, what Philipp had alluded to in the cells communicate instantly. That in the past, say in the lab or at the university or something like that, if we set up a petri dish and we have cells that are placed in the dish, the cells start to grow and become confluent, just meaning that they fill out the dish. But what happens is at a certain point, if you apply a stimulus to one part of the petri dish, at first it doesn't communicate with the other portions of the dish. But then once it reaches a certain aggregate level and there's enough of it, there's instantaneous communication between all points. It's called quorum signaling. And so once you reach a quorum, then you have quorum signaling, where the information moves throughout it. Now, a couple of years ago, some researchers identified that the cells, the mitochondria in the cells, which are the power plants, are actually using little femtosecond pulses of light, so a trillionth of a second, and they're pulsing light. And that's how that communication network of the 4 trillion mitochondria in your body are actually communicating. So we are effectively light beings, which is kind of nice to be able to say tangibly, like we are beings that communicate with light. So it goes even beyond that, and that's what the LeelaQ is. All of the products that are coming out and all of the different things that are put together, the cards, the capsules, everything is set so that it's affecting things, even at a level below that. And so it's a cascading function. And Philipp, when we did the demonstration, and I know we all know about this, but for the people who don't, we did a demonstration live on stage because Philipp asked me to do a demonstration so that people would see that this has a tangible effect and it's not just some snake oil weirdness. So we got on stage with a friend, biohacker Todd, and Todd is horribly allergic to shellfish, crab, anything like that. And so on stage, I derma rolled his right arm and then opened a can of crab meat and then put the juice from the crab meat on. And as would be expected, instant histamine reaction. It's effectively the old dermal stamp test that you would go to an allergist and have. So horribly bad, blows up, arm gets inflamed, it's red, it's itchy, and he's having problems with it. And so then immediately I set the can in one of the infinity blocks and just talked a little bit about waveforms and how waves actually function and what our conception is. Because the way that we're taught to think about it is truly just scratching the surface. And
Yeah.
and that's for another discussion at some point. But the way waves actually function, one, everyone thinks that they're this thing moving like this. Actually, that's really kind of rudimentary. They're really more like three-dimensional spheres that are enveloping at the same time they're rotating. At the same time, they have a specific spin speed and a pressure gradient and a couple of other factors. And all those things are really important and determine what reaction something has. So after I finished explaining that, I took the crab meat down and I derma rolled his other arm and put the crab meat or the crab juice in the open wound from the derma roller, and nothing happened. And everyone was kind of perplexed. But the difference is you're not actually having a histamine reaction because of the biochemistry. You're having a histamine reaction because everything is a waveform. Some things interact constructively, some things interact destructively. When you have a histamine reaction, which actually happening at a level below the molecular level, is you're having a problem with the waveform. So what the block does is it uses quantum energy to manipulate the waveforms so that it works more in accord with what your physiology needs. So if you think of it as pieces of Velcro and you're trying to pull the hook and the loop apart, it's very difficult. But if you sand that down and it's just loop loop, it moves very smoothly. And so that's what I think is a little difficult about this to explain, is that we're delving into territory that the technology really doesn't exist to see directly yet. It will eventually. But right now, that's why, Philipp has had, the Besa Institute and the best research institutions in Europe look at this and actually do real-time blood work to show what the effects are. And you can see it, the dark field microscopy, the images are amazingly stark in contrast after literally just a few minutes. It's brilliant when you can actually quantify these things. But for me, I think the next step is to actually come up with instrumentation so that we can really drill down and actually get to see it. Now, whether or not that happens in our lifetime, who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But that's what's really going on, is we're affecting a stratum that's two or so layers below the physical manifestation that we're all familiar with, as Philipp had said, of matter. And so what happens, the central drop, we're dropping the pebble in the water, and we're only able to see the third ripple out. The first two ripples are beyond our perception right now. We don't have instrumentation that can gauge it. But we do have plenty of good instrumentation and great data using dark field microscopy, EMF tracking, looking at the effects of blocking. All that stuff we can do, and we're actually doing it and have great data on it. But we're braving new territory.
Yes, and I'm so glad you just kind of took a pause for a second there, because you actually gave such a great breakdown when you explained that everything's a wavelength, that beyond the matter, as Philipp started to explain, everything is in these wavelengths, and what the block and other products that come from Leela does is it kind of brings those wavelengths, as you say, in sort of a place of resonance that's a fit for kind of a tune for your body. So that isn't exactly your words, but what I wanted to do is kind of go back to that for a second, because and I apologize, guys. Let me hit live and see if that gives me. Oh, okay, there it goes. Because I can't tell how many people are on right now. My thing goes blank and it goes up to a couple thousand and back to a couple hundred, and many messages that people are getting kicked out. So I was hoping you could actually repeat that part of it again, because I think the concept that we're beyond matter is sort of what is hard for some people to grasp. So if we can just go back to that for a second, how when you say it's a couple steps beyond that, and then again, just circling back to how these products help work with us because we are beyond matter, and then if you can also explain a little bit about some of the ways we have measured it and where we can reference it. I mean, everyone here knows you can go to Leela Quantum, go to their website, go to their Telegram, because there's so much juiciness in the Telegram. I don't even use Telegram. I have it, and there's, I don't know, 700 conversations I have on Telegram, so I never use it. But Leela's is the only one where I'm on it and I will lose myself. It'll be like a rabbit hole, where you go down it, and there's so much that's on the site. There's so much information and these studies And what Ian was referencing is all on their site. But then there's also all this knowledge that comes through the community, which you'll find by joining the chat, because there's so much there too. And I think the chat is equally important to this and to the website and everything else, because you just never know what question that someone thought of. So I just, 2 notes about that. But could you just kind of like go back to that part, Ian? And that way, for the people that have jumped on and off or got kicked out, we kind of get that core part of your explanation, and then we'll obviously dive in a little bit deeper.
Okay, so to go back to the idea of a waveform, right?
Yeah.
In physics, everyone knows that, matter is a thing, right? Well, matter is, E equals mc squared. There's a perfect correlation between the energy and the matter. So the matter is actually created from the energy. It's all a coalescing, just meaning the vibrating pieces of energy are all held together. Now, the way they're held together is how the Leela block and the infinity block and the quantum block, right? That's how everything is helping you. Is it's adjusting components of the energy that cascades up to become matter. So the quantum energy coalesces to become things that we can be consider tangible. Wavelengths, light, then light will coalesce, and then subatomic particles, then molecules, and that's where we're registering. But all of those things are initially a waveform, and those waveforms are held together in much more complex ways than is commonly thought, right? So if I talk to someone in the science community and said, "Oh, explain waves," the things you'll hear are there's amplitude, right? How tall it is, wavelength, how wide the bandwidth is, and then phase, right? Depending on where the wave is effectively starting in relation to another. That's about as much as you're going to get. You're not going to hear people talk about chirality, meaning the direction of the orientation, the vector, the pressure, the color, which is a dimension, actually, if you think about it, because it's a compression that emits a specific wavelength of light. So you'll hear 3 things. There are easily 15 more that I can prattle off that, I've tinkered with and played with and that we're aware of, that are real deterministic factors that show what becomes the tangible matter that we see. So the quantum blocks, you manipulate other factors that then cascade up to become physical elements. And that's why we can make things more beneficial for people. Because when you think of something as having 18 components that have to line up to have a beneficial reaction, and maybe 12 of them aren't working and 6 of them are working, well, then all you have to do is skew a few of the others to make it more beneficial, so physiology doesn't react negatively to it. Hence why we're able to, in real time eliminate a histamine reaction, or make your blood cease to be clumping so that the red blood cells aren't aggregating. They actually ionically separate. Well, in order to create that ionic separation, first you have to change things at a level that's well below the actual presentation of an ionic charge. And that's basically what we're doing, is we're tinkering with the fundamental building blocks that then become the components that we're all used to seeing.
Okay, so amazing explanation again. Philipp approves, but I'm just like, oh, amazing explanation. Best to you guys, bestie. So let's say Mama Poon or someone else's mom is in the room, and now they're looking at this block or the bigger block, and they're trying to understand what you just explained. And so can you explain, and so their questions they're going to say, is it coming off of this metal? How is it in the metal?
Well, what I might say is, if you looked at that with our normal visual perception, you will see, if you shift to a thermal camera, you'll see an entirely different concentration of temperature gradients in the air that's moving through it, in the air that surrounds it. And that is sort of akin to highly concentrating a quantum field within something and then allowing it to emit. So that cube, the travel cube, is emissive to 150 cubic meters, correct, Philipp? About 150 cubic meters?
Yes, correct.
And then the larger block would be about a 1 mile radius. So we're having to look through different lenses. So just like you would heat if you were able to change your lens, you would have to modify your lens to be able to see the effects of the quantum energy moving out. And there are plenty of studies that actually show with physicists that show that there's a tremendous amount of energy contained in any given area. I think it's 10 to the 30th joules per centimeter cubed, or something that's just a ridiculous amount of energy. Kind of like the sun in a teaspoon, kind of a thing. That's not what we normally see and not what we normally tap. This is kind of, as Philipp said, like a battery that you use to charge that component. Or as kind of like the wall charger for us is the phone. So
yeah.
Why I always travel with my heel capsule.
Oh yeah, me too. Everywhere. We're gonna get into that in a second too. But so for the audience to sort of like visualize, imagine if you were looking at this block through thermogenic lenses, what you would see like waves of energy. So it would look, you'd actually be able to see it. I don't know if people can do that at home. I mean, probably needs a special kind of machine that.
Yeah, you do.
But
Red thermal camera or thermometer or something like that. But one thing everyone can do, because and I always tell people this, and it's kind of funny, is if you've ever walked into a room and someone is very happy, or if someone is very angry, right? Now, they're not walking up to you and poking you. So how do you feel it? What is the conveyance, right? There's some transference of energetics, and we are aware of it, because if you walk into a room and people are really happy, you feel bubbly. If you walk into a room and someone just grousing and angry, you feel it. Well, just simply ask yourself the question, how does it work? They didn't walk over and slather chemicals on me. They didn't blow in my direction. It's not like the air has to move past me. You literally feel it. And it's kind of one of those things that fish probably aren't terribly aware of water. They're always in it. They're completely immersed in it. Just like we're in a quantum bath all the time. All of the energy is fluxing around us in perpetuity. It never stops. It moves throughout. It's kind of, it almost is, it sounds a lot like the Force from Star Wars. It's everywhere. It pervades and penetrates everything and permeates all beings. That's basically it. So we're kind of like fish trying to say, no, really, there's water. I promise.
And no, that's such a great explanation. It's so tangible to everyone, right? Like, I love that. And actually, Philipp, you can probably reference, there's you guys already have some of the photographs from that, some of that data that's out there. It's on your site, it's referenceable. So people really, because someone had said, hey, maybe we can get a video of how that looks. They already have evidence of that. But I know it's such a great explanation, because it's almost like a vibe. What are you really feeling? You're feeling the energy. You're feeling those waves.
Well, and I want to add that, Tesla once said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you need to think in terms of energy and frequency. And that's actually one of the most important quotes for nowadays, I think, because, whether our products or not, that's still the most important thing here to actually realize and to tap into in our lives, is to understand more about our energetic nature, and what's really behind all the surface, right? Because the games we play here on Earth on the surface, it's all kind of fun, but what's really behind it, trying to tap into more of our inner power and all of that, and what we really are. And no one needs to understand that right from the get-go. That's absolutely not necessary, because that's a path, and it can be a lot of fun to find out a little bit more every day. Our products help with that on one hand, really. And people with the abilities to see aura or see energies, they can see what's in there, but you don't need to see it. So in order for it to work, I've been asked, like, do I need to believe that it works in order for it to work? No. I mean, interestingly, actually, if you believe in it and have a certain intention, it can work possibly even better, but it works in 100% of the cases, no matter if you believe in it or not. It has nothing to do with that. Its original function, at least. And yes, we have tons of data and studies in regards to what it does, whether heart rate variability or the blood. The blood is quite fascinating. Because we still need these tangible things, and we're curious too. honestly. That's why we're doing so much research, because there's so much more to explore every day.
Yeah, there really is. And, I understand we all kind of need the tangible. It helps us sort of bridge, it's just sort of that bridge to our I want to say our imagination, because that's I think in this sitting in this seat right now, kind of one of the best words that people have to kind of explain what they can see but aren't even aware that they see, and what they can see when you speak it. When you're describing it, you can see it. And so the tangible does help a lot. But for people who have animals, I think animals are another really great way for you to see in a tangible way how it works, because they have no awareness of what it is that you're holding. They don't they don't know what that is. You walk in the room, they're like, oh, there's your mini. They don't know, and they don't. But there's a noticeable difference with the dogs when they are in the room with the block. When we put certain cards, and I know we'll talk about the cards, in greater detail, but some of these cards, like the DNA and cell protector, our dogs are they're very frisky young souls, but they're seniors. They're like 15, 17, and they have a response when they're in the same room, and they actually have a different response whether they're in the room with the infinity, or the quantum, and or the quantum block, or even with the mini. And I think that that's another sort of like testament to how it's actually more tangible than we realize, when we can see it, when we can see how it sort of changes the disposition of the dogs. Uh, and actually, Philipp, if you wouldn't mind, I know that you had sort of talked about the different way. We'll go into more use later, I know, but that's part of the magic of this. Someone says, "What product are we talking about right now?" We're kind of talking about all the products. They all do this, and what's amazing is that we've been talking about the mini block and the block, but they have had this ability to kind of put this. I'm just going to call it magic, even though I am here to talk about the science of the magic, um, into all different products. And Philipp, could you just even run through some of the products that you've kind of, I use the word infuse. It's not the right word, but it's the word I use. Whether it's for DNA cell repair, or anxiety or stress or abundance. I mean, let's talk a little bit about that, because that seems specific, and I think people can kind of understand, all right, this helps even out my waves. I get that. But how does it even out your waves to bring more abundance? How does it even out your waves to bring more than just cell renewal and cell repair?
Yeah. So what we see behind you, that's the mini version of our technology.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have the infinity block and the quantum block. All of those are extensions of that technology, which anyone can acquire and then use for themselves. And that's the ultimate flexibility that it offers, and the greatest potential, if you will, in what you can do with it. Because in between, it really has this multi-dimensional quantum energy space,
Mm-hmm.
with what you can do. So amazing things like putting your hand in, and it optimizes your blood.
Mm-hmm.
But you could put even a silver coin in there, and you can charge it with pure quantum energy. Or you go further, and let's say you want to use the molecular frequency of vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
And you put a vitamin C pill in there together with a silver coin, or could be any coin, or could be also an aluminum card, or whatever you want to take. Should be a metal though.
Mm-hmm.
And you can transfer and copy this frequency of the vitamin C onto that. So now that opens up a lot more possibilities. So what we do is we work with an amazing healer network, some of the best healers across the globe, frankly, with some pretty fancy capabilities and abilities. And we've developed frequencies for certain use cases. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the anxiety, right? So obviously that's something in today's world where a lot of people they're stressed, have anxiety, or even panic attacks. And it could even be a kid, right, that has a test in school, and that kid learned all week long, has this math test, and then something is blocking in that math test, and he can't remember what it was, and he just can't get there. And then suddenly the next comes to the next comes to the next, and he loses it all because he just has this block. Now, this specific card was designed to sort of tap into this space of inner peace. So it's the inner peace card, the specific one. And I use this as the example to explain how these different cards work. So this inner peace, we always have that within us. It's never gone. It's just inaccessible at times. And so we then start to feel this again, and the signal is there to help us expand it in a very natural way, because it's not the card doing it. The card just provides the frequency, the signal to us to remember, oh, I got this inner peace. So, and now I kind of remember again how to expand it. And then suddenly you have access also to these, the information may flow in freely, much more freely. You're not like, oh my God, I have to hold a presentation, I'm all worried. Like, you're much more balanced because you feel yourself more. That's kind of what it does. And so we have developed frequencies also for abundance, for weight loss, for DNA and cell protection. So various ones, some of them were actually requested by the community, where people, that was the weight loss, for example. I never thought we would create one like that, but people were interested in it and said, like, can you make one of those? And then we were like, okay, finally, after 10 times asking, yes, we will make one. And so we combine this technology with these frequencies. And if you think about it, it's not that difficult to understand if you take the vitamin C example again. Because in the end of the day, if you take a vitamin C pill, what is it that ends up in the core of the cell? It's not the physical vitamin C pill, it's the information of it. So it's all about information, and frequency, is basically, that's information. And so with quantum energy as a carrier or booster and specific frequencies, you can offer certain help, right, and support on a different level, on the non-physical, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does to me. And then we'll probably have Ian dig in a little bit on that, because I am getting questions that's saying, I don't get it. How do you put inner peace in a card and then put it back into you? So I think that's a great question, because if someone just happened to jump in and hadn't heard the whole thing and hasn't yet gone to the site or listened to our first chat, that's probably what they're thinking. They're thinking, okay, so this card has inner peace, and this one doesn't, it's DNA, but how is this giving me? And there's people saying it's placebo, but it's not. It's frequency. So
yes, correct. Well, it's definitely not placebo, and so we wanted to make sure also in these studies, the dark field microscopy studies. First, we started at the very first beginning. We started that doctors, took pictures before and after, and we knew those were legit pictures, of course. But of course, with just a few before and after pictures, that gives you a hint, but it doesn't prove anything really. So you have to go above and beyond that. And we've ended up with randomized, sham-controlled, double-blind studies to completely rule out the placebo effect. So absolutely, that's important to do. And there's it's definitely not a placebo effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
even though that's already great, like a placebo effect is already great, but
yeah, it really is actually. They're great if you can help people. However you do it is fine. But one of the things when people say, well, how do you put something on a card? Well, right now we're all looking at a screen, and all three of us are on the screen. You're not miniaturized behind a piece of glass. We're information. It's being collected into a series of frequencies, and then that series of frequencies is bounced literally all over the country to towers, which then propagate those frequencies to other towers that go to a receiver that reconstitutes that information. So the answer is kind of implicit. We're literally watching what we're talking about. It's just a different output. One, for lack of a better term, kind of a vibe, if you will. But you could say, it's an emotion. Philipp said it incredibly well. The information is what's pivotal, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, all of these different components have a certain specific frequency that's emissive. I think, scientists oftentimes there's a tremendous degree of hubris in science. And we think, kind of like Lord Kelvin, said 100 years ago, nothing new will be discovered. All that remains now is just to have varying more accuracy. Well, if we stopped when Lord Kelvin said that a little over 100 years ago, we probably would have missed out on some cool tech. So science is a point on a line, and we're here, and Philipp and I, what we're doing, we're talking about things that really probably won't be codified and able to be very well sussed out and explained for probably many, many years. We're around it by isolating the data sets that we can get with the technology that we have currently. Like in the lab, if I want to run, I literally have a spectroscope sitting right next to me. If I want to assess something, I run it through my UV-Vis spectroscope, and it tells me what the emissive frequency is. And that is what is in the flask, right? So when I put my cuvette in, I look at it, I pulse light through it, and then that frequency tells me, it is this molecule. Unfortunately, that's very basic. It's kind of like saying, it's a box that's labeled with this molecule. Well, it really is almost like just being able to assess a box. And the technology we have currently says, emissive wavelength come off. Box is blue. Other box is blue. Exactly same box. I mean, it's super primitive. Really, one box is filled with uranium. One box is filled with feathers. One box is filled with lead. They're all entirely different and all do entirely different things. But with current tech, all we're able to say is wavelength emissive, this thing. As much as I'd like to think we're all super bright and well informed, it's crazy primitive. And there are all these other attributes, and that's what keeps coming up is you're transmitting information. If you think of information just as one static construct, you get it. Unfortunately, you're kind of literally missing the boat. I would recommend that anybody look at Luc Montagnier's work. He was the Nobel laureate who he got the Nobel Prize for identifying the HIV virus. And much to his chagrin, he did it 3 years before anyone believed he did it. He kept saying, hey, did this. No one would pay attention. He had it done for 3 years before anybody actually paid attention to it. And then, of course, probably as, kind of a compensatory measure that gave him the Nobel Prize, which as a scientist does not suck. So that's pretty good. But, he tried to tell people, I've got it right here for 3 years and no attention. And for the past 15 years, what he's been working on is storing information using water as an information storage media. And save the fact that he's a very smart doctor and a Nobel laureate, everybody would just blow him off as a quack. Instead, because he has, such pedigree, they just go, that's Montagnier. He's just doing some crazy weird thing. Don't pay attention. But he does it, and very often it's repeatable, not every time. And I think I understand part of the reasons behind that. But it's exactly what Philipp was saying. All about the information. You transmit, get the result. And all of the things that we're breaking down, literally all of them can be broken down to specific frequencies. Not frequencies in 482.453. It's not that kind of frequency. And that's, I think, where people get off is the nomenclature of saying it's a frequency. You instantly in your head think, radio dial for the, tuning in of a station. It's not that kind of a frequency. And again, even that, like AM, amplitude modulation, FM, frequency modulation, that's kind of the basics. If you had to get a specific station, if you had to go through and dial in 18 different dials with perfect specificity to get the result, that would be exactly the result. And that's kind of what's going on here is when you're saying, we're going to do something for anxiety or we're going to do something for weight loss, well, you simply adjust the dials to get all of the right things at a quantum level, and then they roll up and transmit everything to the physical level in the form of information. And then it has the result. And, I think one of the best things is double-blind, sham-controlled studies should really tell anybody, even in common parlance, just looking around, that it's not a placebo effect. It really is happening. We just lack some of the specificity to show it right now.
Mm-hmm. And again, like sometimes when listening to you guys explain, I'm like, that's such a great way of breaking it down to people. It's information, and information is being transmitted, and you reminding people about water is a great example. This isn't water. It's in these other mediums that's happening. And so I think that helps people again, because people still sort of need the tangible.
Well, you learn math by eating numbers. That's the information comes in, and then you learn math. I didn't chew on the number 3 to figure out how to do it.
Right. Right.
It has.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You guys, I really appreciate I have no idea how many people are on. My clock is stopped at 5:35, so I also don't know how long we've been on. But I'm getting a lot of comments that people are getting kicked out again and again. So I think it's just that updates from Instagram. There's not much we can do about it. It's just what Instagram does. So everything's recorded. It'll be back up. We'll be able to post it in the community in the Leela Quantum Telegram group that I'm talking about, and it'll be on our YouTube. It'll be in a bunch of different places. So anything that you think that you've missed, we've recorded. We'll get it all cleaned up. The information will be out there for you. I'm so sorry that Instagram is being fussy today, or doing the Mercury retrograde thing. But there were a lot of questions about the cards, Philipp, and I know that we're going to focus on products a little bit, further on, specifically, but just some general questions is, people want to buy them. They're on the website. I don't know what the costs are. I've gotten so many of them. They mesh in my head. But go to the website. Everything is there. Yes, some things get sold out, so you want to check every day. But people wanted to know if they can use multiple cards at the same time, and how they use it, and is it okay for their kids? They heard me say it's okay for dogs. Is there products that are too strong? Just some general glossovers, because I know there are a lot of people on here that want to go purchase products right now.
So the cards should be worn very close to the body. Otherwise, you won't have the effect. So that means in the pocket or something similar where you have it really close to the body.
But does it need to be on your skin? Some people ask.
Well, not right at the skin, but it should be relatively close to the body, because the cards only have a field of about 30, 40 centimeters roughly. And if you have them in your pocket, then you could argue, well, that doesn't penetrate my feet. Yeah, but it penetrates enough of your physiological and energetic system actually to then affect and support your whole system. So that's been tested, works totally fine. Even at night, you can put the card underneath your pillow. A lot of people do that actually with the inner peace card. While we do have one for sleep and rest, specifically the inner peace is, for the time we're in right now, a pretty good one also at nights, because this space of inner peace is so crucial for us functioning well and really acting out of our inner self and not from something that's just coming to us. And often we have these mind, things going on, and that helps a little bit with that. So underneath the pillow, in the pocket, that's kind of how you wear it. And can you use multiple cards? So we always recommend to focus on the specific use case one at a time, just because, you also don't watch 3 different movies at the same time. You can, but it's hard to follow and be, very accurate in telling the story to other people afterwards. And that's kind of the same thing. You couldn't you could in theory create a frequency that's for 100 million different things and put it all in one, but it would be just too confusing. It would be too much and absolutely overwhelming, and in the end wouldn't have any effect. So focus on one ideal. There are some that you can still combine, like the heal frequency, the so-called heal frequency we have, that can be combined with most of the other ones. And then we have similarities, like we have the abundance frequency, which is all about the inner abundance. because we have these deficits within us. Like there's either love I need because I don't love myself enough, then I need to get it from someone, or I need to eat chocolate, or I need to do this, or I need money because I don't feel full. I need something to fill this gap, right? And that is always lack of inner abundance. But if you can fill up the space with you and with this inner abundance, there's nothing you need actually from the outset, because you're already full. You know, there's nothing you really need. That you still can have everything. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have everything. You could go buy a Ferrari or whatever, but you don't need it to feel good. You already feel good, and then you go buy a Ferrari, and then you may feel better. But that's a different kind of better. So this inner abundance is crucial. And then we have a so-called prosperity card. That one was developed with Roman Hafner together, and actually works on the money flow and also on topics that may be in the way of us allowing prosperity. But there's nothing wrong with money at all. There's nothing wrong with money. Money is energy. It's nothing else but energy. But how we think about it and how we use it, that determines, you know, the badness or the goodness of it. Because if you use it for something terrible, okay, then, you know, it's not good. But you can use money for great things. And, you know, some of the misconceptions and some of the spiritual areas are, okay, well, I need to be poor because money is bad and I don't want anything. And that's a total misconception. That's actually just showing off with deficit. If you're full from the inside and the money flow is not blocked, you can allow all that in without any attachments to it, but also without any like negative thoughts attached to that. And those you can combine certainly.
And you guys, just so you know, we will definitely be diving into more specifics, because we have upcoming episodes in our series that will focus a little bit more on each topic and break it down even more. So definitely save your questions for that. But I just wanted to address a few of them. People are asking, can you use multiple products at the same time? Yes, I do. You know, I've got this on. This is with me everywhere. I've got a bracelet. I have my cards with me as well. So you can use multiple different products at the same time, and I highly recommend it. So I know that some people are saying, go ahead.
Philipp, just an idea, but maybe we could do kind of like a contrast card where we could have an anxiety card that actually makes you horribly anxious and stressed, and kind of like a hormetic stress response where people under a tremendous stress, and then they simply walk away from the card. You know, just thought. So.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to have actually, but so unfortunately, or maybe unfortunately, that wouldn't even work with our technology, because that would cause indeed distress, right, to the physiological organism, and everything that causes physiological stress or energetic stress is actually being neutralized by our technology. So I love the idea. Actually, we would have to find something else, maybe a tiger or so.
I think it's the longevity thing, right? Just a smidge of hermetic stress, you know, activate those cells and then calm yourself, you know. So
it's hard that spiky points on it.
Yeah, and I do want to mention this so real quick. So the actual technology, the blocks, right? Travel blocks, infinity blocks, and so on. Well, everything in essence is frequency. How we explain it is that's neutral quantum energy and not a specific frequency added, so that you can always have anywhere. And someone else asked, you know, does this interfere with any other energy products or any other products? And it does not, because it's pure quantum energy. It doesn't interfere with anything really. And if you want to work with the inner peace card, you can still do that even though you have that at home.
And you can even put your crystals here's my, you can charge up, and we talked about it in the last episode, is that you can actually amplify the benefits of the frequency of your crystals as well. So this is my soda light. I'm going to need to go have words with the Instacart guy later. So just charging that up.
One thing that isn't actually a joke, and I probably do joke a little too much, but one thing that isn't actually a joke, if you take a block and you put one substance in it, and the one that I'm thinking of is one of our friends put sage in a block and left it there for a day, and then he takes it out and he put a glass of milk in it because he puts all of his food in it. And when he started to sip the milk, he couldn't figure out what was going on because it tasted like sage. And that's because you lock in a specific frequency, and like Philipp was saying, you can actually imprint on the milk. Well, in that case, it actually took the sage and imprinted the sage on the milk, so he actually tasted and smelled the milk. Aha! And
that was Todd. That's so funny. Yeah, so this is, and there's going to be so much, and what I'm super excited about is that I've gotten so much feedback from just even my community, because I've never really deep dived into this, and there's so much interest, and people love the first episode. You guys, if you love, make sure you go and you join the Telegram community. You join them on across all platforms. Like obviously Instagram is a great way, but YouTube, they have all these videos. Go to the website, and it's just really fun to nerd out, and then when you can go to the store and you can get some of these cards, you can play with it yourself, and then kind of give feedback to the community. And there's going to be so many other people who have also been playing with it, and it's just great. It's so much fun, and we'll continue to dive deeper into each individual product, and we have some special things coming up in later series. But there was a comment earlier that's like, who are these geniuses that are in the background? Well, instead of giving you their resume, I would say go to the first episode that we did with Philipp. You will get his background. And then with Ian, we've done a 5-part series. And you can go and check that out too. Everything is on YouTube. Go to the link in my bio. It'll take you to all of that. And definitely join the group. And I'm on there, and hopefully, we can hang there as well. So someone's like, I think I'm on all of them. Yes, you too. When is your next live? We will announce when our next live is, so stay tuned. Sign up for their newsletter. Sign up for ours. We make those announcements. And yeah, you guys have fun. Go get some of these cards and photos at the blog. It's the best thing ever. So I'm clearly biased, but I feel the benefits, and I think that everyone deserves to. So anyway, I think we probably should wrap up pretty soon. I know that there's so many people that are like on, off. Do you guys have any other comments or questions that you want to answer that you saw that was on here? Someone's like, thank you for expanding my brain cell. So yes.
One point, and Philipp, you can speak to this more than I, but one of the things that I think really is kind of pivotal is none of the things here are designed to do anything other than benefit people. And I know neither Philipp nor myself would actually do anything if there were a chance of it having a detrimental impact on some. The whole exercise here is to help people level up and to find more of their own true nature and expand. And really the core concept behind all the products, and I too am biased and I very much love them. But I do it because I really firmly believe the technology is brilliant. It's where things are headed, but other than that, it's the intent behind Leela Quantum that's here. So just an homage. I love it. I really do. I think the way this is being done is very admirable. So,
I agree 100%. There's such, and I feel it in your products, truly. Like you feel the love and the beauty of that intent, and it's just, and I think that's part of why you feel so amazing around any of it. It's just there is so much beauty and so much, just love and grace, in the intent behind everything you're creating. So I echo you, I so much respect, so much love. Oh, that's a great question. Crystal blessings. I would say maybe we can continue that conversation about autism and a product in the community, in the chat there, and then we can follow up too in the IG series, in the IG live series. But we're coming up towards the end of this one, so let's talk about that in the Telegram group, and you'll find the link to that in the bio if you go to Leela Quantum, anywhere on their YouTube or here. And we can talk about food allergies then too there, and also in a series. And someone asked about special prices for the products. Yes, there are. If you get 4 of DNA ones, there's a discount. If you get 4 of these necklaces, there's a discount. I mean, just go check every day. Obviously, I've gotten all of them. There's like the bracelets. And they're just gift them to everybody. So that's what I'm doing. So yes, go check out the site. It's so cool, and you will just rabbit hole into it, and it's so fun. And definitely check out all the science too. They have a lot of great data that they've already talked about here today. So I keep rambling, but I really should let you guys go. It was so good to see you both.
Thank you so much, Serena. Thank you so much, Ein, and thank you everyone watching. Sorry that Instagram was difficult today, but again, I guess you can find the conversation once it's uploaded, and we'll see you in the Telegram group maybe with some questions.
Yes, no, absolutely. We'll have everything all done for you guys. Information is still there. You didn't lose anything. And then hopefully by the next time we're on, Instagram has sorted itself out and gotten itself out there for you, because that was cool. So anyways, all right, you guys, thank you so much. Love you. I will talk to you guys so soon. You guys are also welcome, and thank you for staying on with us. I know that a bunch of you had to jump on and off, so thank you for being patient. We love you guys, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.